I watched from across the dinner table as Emma scratched at her face for the third time in 5 minutes, her perfectly manicured nails leaving red streaks across her cheek. The angry cystic acne that had erupted across her forehead and jawline was impossible to miss under the chandelier's harsh light. My mother pretended not to notice, cutting her steak with deliberate precision while my father cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Stop that, Emma," Mother finally said, her voice tight with barely concealed disgust. "You're making it worse." "I can't help it," Emma hissed, dropping her hand. "I don't understand what happened. My skin was perfect 2 months ago, and now—" She gestured helplessly at her face, her eyes brimming with tears that I knew were more from vanity than actual pain. I took a small bite of my salmon, savoring both the food and the moment. In my previous life, I would have felt guilty. I would have offered her my expensive serums and creams, the ones I saved up for months to afford with my part-time job money. I would have watched as she borrowed them without asking, used them up completely, and never once thanked me or offered to replace them. But I had died knowing the truth about my sister, my mother, and this entire family. And now, reborn at 17 with all my memories intact, I had made one simple change. I stopped buying the skincare products. The results were more spectacular than I could have imagined. "Maybe you should see a dermatologist," I suggested sweetly, knowing exactly what Mother would say. "Dermatologists are expensive," Mother snapped, as if I'd suggested something obscene. "Emma just needs to wash her face better. Perhaps use better products." Emma's eyes cut to me, sharp and calculating. "Don't you have that French serum? The one with the blue bottle? Maybe I could try. Oh, I don't buy that anymore," I said casually, watching her face fall. "Too expensive for my budget. I just use drugstore cleanser now, simple and cheap." The lie rolled off my tongue effortlessly. In truth, I did still buy expensive skincare. I just hid it in a locked box under my bed, along with the growing stash of money I'd been secretly saving. But Emma didn't need to know that. Neither did my mother, who had a habit of borrowing my things for Emma whenever she pleased. "Drugstore?" Emma's voice rose in disbelief and barely concealed panic. "But your skin looks amazing, better than I've ever seen it." She wasn't wrong. My skin was glowing, clear and dewy because I was actually able to use my full skincare routine consistently instead of having to ration it or find it empty when I reached for it. But more than that, I knew something Emma didn't. Her skin wasn't breaking out because she lacked good products. It was breaking out because she had never developed a proper routine of her own. She had always just stolen mine. In my previous life, I had enabled her. I had bought the expensive products, researched the ingredients, figured out the perfect routine for my skin type, which happened to also be her skin type since we were sisters. She had simply swooped in and reaped the benefits of all my hard work and money, while I scraped by with whatever dregs were left. When I died at 23, pushed down the stairs by Emma during an argument over my inheritance from our grandmother, my last coherent thought had been about how I had given her everything and she had taken it all without a second thought. My money, my time, my research, my belongings, my opportunities, and finally, my life. The moment I woke up in my 17-year-old body, 6 years before my death, I had made a decision. Never again. "Genetics, I guess," I said with a shrug, turning back to my dinner. "We can't all be lucky." Emma's face flushed with anger, making the acne stand out even more against her reddened skin. Mother shot me a warning look, but I ignored it, taking another delicate bite. My father, as usual, said nothing, his eyes fixed on his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. That had been 2 months ago. 2 months since I'd stopped buying the products, stopped enabling Emma's parasitic behavior, and started making changes. Small changes at first, subtle ones that no one would notice, but they were adding up, piece by piece, into something much larger. In my previous life, the years from 17 to 23 had been a nightmare dressed in the trappings of family obligation. It had started small, as abuse often does. Emma, 2 years older and infinitely more favored, had always been the golden child. She was prettier, Mother said, more charismatic, more deserving of investment. When there was money for one of us to take piano lessons, it went to Emma. When there was money for a new dress, it went to Emma. When there was money for college applications, SAT prep courses, or summer programs, it all went to Emma. I had learned early to make myself small, to need nothing, to ask for nothing. I got a job at 14, working at a local cafe, saving every penny. I bought my own clothes at thrift stores. I taught myself piano from YouTube videos. I studied for the SATs with library books. And I bought myself nice things, occasionally. Little luxuries that made the grinding poverty of being the unfavored daughter bearable. Good skincare products, a nice journal, quality pens, small things that brought me joy. Emma noticed, of course. And what Emma noticed, Emma took. At first, it was just borrowing. A squirt of my face wash here, a bit of my moisturizer there. But Emma had never learned the meaning of moderation or boundaries. Soon, my products were disappearing at an alarming rate. I'd buy a new serum that was supposed to last 3 months, and it would be gone in 3 weeks. I'd splurge on a special treatment mask, and I'd find the empty jar in Emma's bathroom trash. When I confronted her, she'd laughed. "We're sisters," she'd said, and if that explained everything. "What's yours is mine. Don't be so selfish." Mother had agreed. "Family shares," she'd said firmly. "I raised you better than this, Claire. Your sister needs these things more than you do. She has appearances to maintain." Appearances? That was always the excuse. Emma was the pretty one, the social one, the one who would marry well and bring honor to the family. I was just the smart one, the quiet one. The one who would probably end up a spinster with cats? At least that's what Mother always said. So, I had continued to buy the products, and Emma had continued to steal them, and I had continued to go without. It was the pattern of our entire relationship, really. I worked, she took. I saved, she chint. I sacrificed, she benefited. The skincare was just a symptom of a much larger disease. When I was 18, I had won a prestigious scholarship to a top university. Full ride, room and board, stipend for books. I had worked myself to exhaustion for years to earn it, maintaining perfect grades while working 20 hours a week at the cafe. It was my ticket out, my chance at a better life. Emma had been furious. Not because she wanted to go to that university, she'd barely scraped into a local state school, but because I was getting something she wasn't. Something that was mine alone that she couldn't take. She'd made my life hell that summer before I left. Stolen my clothes and accidentally ruined them. Deleted my college prep files from my computer. Spread rumors about me to my few friends. But the worst had been the morning I was supposed to leave for school. I had woken up violently ill, vomiting and feverish. My acceptance packet, my scholarship information, my already packed suitcases, all gone. Emma had hidden them and denied any knowledge. By the time I recovered enough to search for them, I had missed orientation, missed the deadline to confirm my enrollment, missed everything. The scholarship was withdrawn. The acceptance was revoked. I had been devastated. Mother had been unsympathetic. "Perhaps it wasn't meant to be," she'd said. "You can go to community college and live at home, help out around the house. Your sister needs support during her university years." Support. What she meant was funding. Because while Emma had gotten into state school, she hadn't gotten any scholarships. Someone needed to pay her tuition, her housing, her meal plan, her sorority fees, her endless shopping trips. That someone, it turned out, was me. I had deferred my dreams and gotten a full-time job as a legal secretary. Every penny I didn't need for basic survival went to Emma's education. Mother presented it as family duty, but I knew the truth. I was the workhorse and Emma was the show pony. I existed to make her life possible. The pattern continued for years. When Emma wanted a car, I co-signed the loan and ended up making most of the payments when she forgot. When Emma wanted a luxury apartment, I paid half the rent so she could have it. When Emma wanted a designer wardrobe for her internships, I maxed out my credit cards. And through it all, she continued to steal my skincare products. It was such a small thing compared to the money, compared to the sacrifices, compared to everything else. But somehow, it hurt the most. Those products represented the tiny bit of self-care I could afford, the small luxury that was supposed to be just for me. And she took even that. The skincare became a symbol of everything wrong with my life. Every empty bottle was a reminder that I had no boundaries, no self-respect, no ability to say no. Every time I reached for a product that should have been there and found it gone, I felt my resentment grow. But I never stopped buying them. Because despite everything, I still believed that family was supposed to love each other. that if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, loved enough, eventually they would love me back. I died still believing that lie. The argument that killed me had been about our grandmother's will. Grandmother had been the only person in the family who truly loved me, who saw me for who I was and valued me. When she died, she left me her house, a beautiful Victorian in a good neighborhood, worth at least $1 million, and a substantial sum of money in trust. Mother had been apoplectic. Emma had been worse. "It should be mine," Emma had screamed. "I'm the oldest. I'm the one who needs it. You already have a job. You don't need money. This is so unfair." I had tried to explain that grandmother had chosen me, that it was grandmother's wish, that I finally had something of my own. Emma had responded by shoving me. I had been standing at the top of the stairs in grandmother's house, my house, during the argument. I remembered falling, the sickening sensation of weightlessness, the stairs rushing up to meet me. I remembered Emma's face, shocked but not sorry, looking down at me. I remembered Mother calling it an accident, telling the police that I had simply tripped, that Emma hadn't meant anything by the push, that it was just a tragic mistake. I remembered dying slowly in a hospital bed, paralyzed from the neck down. I remembered Emma coming to visit me once, her face carefully arranged in an expression of grief, and whispering, "You should sign the house over to me. You can't take care of it now anyway." I had refused. And 3 days later, I died. When I woke up in my 17-year-old body, the morning after what should have been a normal Tuesday, my first emotion had been pure incandescent rage. Then came the calculation. I had 6 years. 6 years until Emma would kill me. 6 years until I would lose everything. 6 years to change my fate. But more than that, I had knowledge. I knew their every move, every manipulation, every lie. I knew what they would do because they had already done it. I had been given an unfair advantage and I intended to use it. The skincares. Products were the first test of my new resolve. In my previous life, the morning after this particular Tuesday, I would have gone to the store and bought a new set of expensive Korean serums, the ones that Emma loved to steal. This time, I didn't. When Emma came to my room that evening, clearly expecting to find new products in my bathroom, she found nothing. "Where's your skincare stuff?" she asked, rifling through my drawers without permission, as she always did. "Don't have any," I said, not looking up from my book. "Can't afford it." "What do you mean you can't afford it? You just got paid." "Spent it on other things." Specifically, I had spent it on a post office box, a prepaid debit card under a fake name, and the first deposit into a secret savings account that no one in my family would ever know about. But Emma didn't need to know that. "What things?" Her voice had an edge now, suspicious and demanding. "Things," I repeated. "My money, my business." She had stared at me like I had sprouted a second head. In our previous life, I had never talked back, never refused her anything. This new version of me was unfamiliar territory. "You're being really selfish, Claire," she said finally. "Okay," I agreed pleasantly, turning a page in my book. She had left in a huff, slamming my door. I had smiled. That night, I heard her in the bathroom going through Mother's products. Mother's skincare routine was minimal and cheap, nothing like the carefully curated collection I had built. Emma tried to make do, but it wasn't the same. Within 2 weeks, I could see the difference. Her skin, so perfect in my previous timeline, was starting to show signs of stress. A few small blemishes, some dry patches. Nothing major yet, but the decline had begun. I continued my own routine in secret, my skin glowing. The contrast would only become more obvious as time went on. The skincare was just the beginning, though. It was the proof of concept, the evidence that I could change things, that I could take back control of my life. Now I needed to tackle the bigger issues, the scholarship. That was the big one, the life-changing opportunity that Emma had stolen from me. I needed to make sure that this time, nothing would go wrong. I started preparing immediately. I made copies of all my application materials and stored them in 3 different locations: my school locker, my post office box, and buried in my email in a draft folder. I set up alerts on my phone for every important deadline. I told my school counselor about my plans and asked her to keep backup copies as well, citing my disorganized family situation. Mrs. Chen, my counselor, had given me a knowing look. She had always been kind to me, one of the few adults who seemed to see through the family dynamics. "Of course, Claire," she had said. "I'll keep everything safe." But more than that, I needed to make sure I wouldn't be sabotaged on the crucial day. In my previous life, Emma had poisoned me. I was certain of it now with the clarity of hindsight. Nothing else could explain the sudden, violent illness that had struck so conveniently. This time, I would be ready. The weeks leading up to my departure date, I became paranoid about food and drink. I ate only pre-packaged foods that I opened myself, kept a mini fridge with a lock in my room, brought my own water bottle everywhere. Emma noticed, of course, commenting on my weird new health kick, but I didn't care. Let her think what she wanted. I also made a change to my living situation. In my previous life, I had trusted Emma with the information about when I was leaving, where I was going, all the details. This time, I told her I was leaving 3 days later than I actually was. The night before my real departure, I didn't sleep at home. I told my parents I was staying at a friend's house for a farewell party. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel with my already packed bags and slept with my hand on my phone, ready to call 911 if anyone tried to break in. The next morning, I took a bus to the university, 3 states away, and checked into my dorm. I sent a text to my parents from the university address. Arrived safely, starting orientation today. The response was immediate and explosive. Mother called 16 times in a row. Emma sent a string of profanity-laden texts. My father sent one message. This was very irresponsible. I blocked them all and turned off my phone. For the first time in my life, I was free. University was everything I had dreamed of, and more. Without my family's constant demands, without Emma's theft and mother's criticism, I flourished. My grades were perfect. I made friends, real friends who liked me for myself. I joined clubs, pursued internships, discovered passions I had never had time to explore before. I also kept my family on an information diet. I unblocked them after a week. It would look too suspicious otherwise, but I gave them nothing substantial. No, I didn't need money. No, I couldn't come home for Thanksgiving. I had too much work. No, Emma couldn't visit me. My dorm was too small. No, no, no. Every no felt like a victory. Emma's texts became increasingly desperate over those first few months. Can you send me money for rent? Can you co-sign a loan for me? Mom says you need to help with my tuition. Can't, I replied each time. All my scholarship money is accounted for, barely getting by myself. This was a lie. I was actually doing very well. I had a part-time job at the university library that paid well, and my expenses were minimal since my scholarship covered room and board. The money was going into my secret savings account, growing steadily. I was building a future that no one could take from me. But I knew the real test was still to come. Grandmother was still alive, still healthy. The inheritance that had ultimately caused my death was still years away. But there were other events I remembered. Other crucial moments where Emma had sabotaged me. The internship, for instance. In my previous life, during my junior year, I had applied for a prestigious internship at a major law firm. It was incredibly competitive, but I had been selected as a finalist. The final interview was supposed to be the formality. I had been told I was the top candidate. I never made it to that interview. The night before, Emma, who had somehow found out about it despite my attempts to keep my life private, had called me in hysterics, claiming mother had been in a terrible car accident and was in the hospital, might not make it through the night. I had driven 8 hours through the night to get home, missing my interview, sick with worry. When I arrived at the house, Mother had been sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee, perfectly fine. Emma had smirked at me. "Oops," she'd said. "I guess I got confused. Must have been a dream I had." The internship went to another candidate. I had complained to the firm, tried to reschedule, but they had been firm. Missing the interview without even calling to explain was unprofessional. They couldn't trust me with a position after that. This time would be different. When junior year came around, I applied for the internship again. I also did something I hadn't done before. I told no one in my family about it. Not a word. As far as they knew, I was spending the summer doing research on campus. When I made it to the finals, when I got the call scheduling the interview, I felt a grim satisfaction. This time, there would be no midnight emergencies, no desperate drives home. This time, I was in control. The interview went perfectly. I was sharp, prepared, confident in a way I had never been in my previous life. 3 days later, I got the offer. The internship changed everything. It wasn't just the resume boost or the connections, though those were substantial. It was the proof that I could succeed on my own merits without my family's interference. It was the confirmation that my previous failures had been manufactured, not inherent. I was good enough. I had always been good enough. They had just never let me prove it. Emma found out about the internship eventually. I had been stupid enough to post about it on social media, a moment of proud excitement that I immediately regretted. Her reaction was predictable. "How could you not tell us?" she demanded over the phone, her voice shrill. "We're your family. We should have been the first to know." "I didn't think you'd be interested," I said mildly. "Of course we're interested. This is a huge opportunity. You need to leverage this. Maybe you could get me an interview there too?" There it was. The real reason for her interest. Not pride in my achievement, but calculation about how she could benefit from it. "They're not hiring anyone else this summer," I lied smoothly. In truth, they were hiring 3 more interns, but Emma wasn't going to be one of them. "It's a very small program." "Well, maybe next summer? Could you put in a good word for me?" "We'll see," I said. Which meant no, absolutely not, over my dead body. Except this time, it wouldn't be my dead body. "I have to go, Emma. Lots of work to do." I hung up before she could protest, feeling a petty satisfaction. The years of university passed in a blur of success and secret planning. I graduated summa cum laude, top of my class, with multiple job offers. I chose the best one, a position at a prestigious law firm in a city 6 states away from my family. I moved immediately after graduation, not even going home for a visit. My family was displeased, to put it mildly, but I was 21 now, an adult, independent. They had no legal hold over me, and crucially, I had been careful to never let them gain a financial hold either. No co-signed loans, no shared credit cards, no joint accounts. I was completely separate from them. It was during this time that grandmother got sick. I found out not from my family, but from grandmother herself. She called me one evening, her voice weak but warm. "Claire, darling, I have something to tell you." My heart clenched. I knew what was coming. I had lived through this before. "Grandmother," I said, keeping my voice steady. "How are you?" "Dying, dear," she said bluntly. "The doctors give me 6 months, maybe less. But that's not why I called. I need to talk to you about my will." Here it was. The moment that had led to my death in my previous life, except this time I was prepared. "I want to leave you my house," grandmother continued, "and the bulk of my money. I know this will cause problems with your mother and Emma, but Claire, you're the only one who deserves it. You're the only one who worked for anything in her life. The only one with integrity." "Grandmother," I said carefully, "I'm honored. But maybe we should discuss other options." In my previous life, I had been so grateful, so excited about the inheritance that I hadn't thought about the consequences. This time, I knew better. The inheritance was a target on my back. "What do you mean, other options?" Grandmother sounded confused. "I mean, maybe the inheritance could be structured differently, maybe with conditions or trusts that protect it and protect me." We talked for over an hour. Grandmother was sharp despite her illness, and she understood immediately what I was implying without me having to say it directly. By the end of the conversation, we had a plan. The house would still go to me, but it would be in a trust that I couldn't access until I was 25 or upon marriage, whichever came first. The money would also be in a trust with careful conditions about how it could be used. And most importantly, everything would be handled by an independent executor, not by my mother or anyone else in the family. "This will make them furious," grandmother warned. "I know," I said, "but it will keep me safe." She made the changes to her will the next week. When she died 2 months later, I was devastated. Grandmother had been my only real family, the only one who loved me unconditionally. But I was also grimly satisfied. This time, I had protected myself. The reading of the will was every bit as dramatic as I expected. Mother turned red, then white, then red again. Emma screamed. My father sat in stunned silence. "This is outrageous!" Mother shrieked. "She's stealing from her own family." I'm not stealing anything, I said calmly. Bami. This is what grandmother wanted. You manipulated her. You took advantage of a dying old woman. The will was written by grandmother's lawyers and witnessed by 3 independent parties, the executor said firmly. There's no evidence of manipulation or undue influence. This is a legally sound document. Emma turned to me, her face ugly with rage. You bitch. You selfish, conniving bitch. After everything we did for you. What did you do for me exactly? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Tell me, Emma, what did you ever do for me? She sputtered, unable to come up with an answer that wouldn't reveal the truth, that she had done nothing for me, ever, that she had only taken. I raised you, Mother interjected. I fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head, and this is how you repay me? You did the bare minimum that's legally required of a parent, I said. And you made sure I knew every day that Emma was your favorite, that I was the disappointment, that I existed only to support her. Well, I'm done supporting her. I'm done supporting any of you. I stood up, gathering my purse. The house is mine. The money is mine. And none of you will ever see a penny of it. Emma moved fast, faster than I expected, even knowing what she was capable of. She lunged at me, hands outstretched, face contorted with rage. She wanted to push me, to hurt me, maybe to kill me like she had in my previous life. But this time, I was ready. I sidestepped smoothly, and Emma's momentum carried her forward into the chair I had just vacated. She crashed into it hard, yelping in pain and surprise. I was already moving toward the door where the executor's security guard, a precaution I had insisted on, was standing ready. If any of you contact me again, I'm getting a restraining order, I said from the doorway. Stay away from me, stay away from my inheritance, and stay out of my life. I walked out and didn't look back. The next 2 years were the happiest of my life. I threw myself into my career, rising quickly at the law firm. I made genuine friends, dated people who actually cared about me, traveled to places I had only dreamed of before. I started therapy to work through the trauma of my previous life, though obviously I couldn't tell my therapist about the time travel aspect, and began to heal. The house stayed in trust, professionally managed, accruing value. The money stayed invested, growing steadily. I lived well but not extravagantly, saving most of my salary, building a fortress of financial security around myself. My family tried to contact me, of course. Emails, phone calls, messages through mutual acquaintances. I ignored them all. Then the letters started arriving at my workplace, at my apartment. Desperate, wheedling letters from Mother. Angry, threatening letters from Emma. Passive-aggressive letters from my father, suggesting I was being dramatic and should let bygones be bygones. I kept every single one, carefully filed away. Evidence, just in case. Then 2 months before my 23rd birthday, the age I had been when I died in my previous life, Emma showed up at my apartment. I don't know how she found out where I lived. I had been so careful keeping my address private, using a P.O. box for mail. But she was there, standing in my building's lobby when I came home from work one evening, and my blood ran cold. Emma, I said, keeping my voice neutral, you need to leave. I just want to talk, she said, and she actually had the audacity to look hurt. Please, Claire, 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Every instinct screamed at me to refuse, to call security, to run. But a part of me, the part that still remembered being that desperate, hopeful girl who wanted her family to love her, hesitated. 5 minutes, I said finally. In the lobby, we're not going to my apartment. We sat in the lobby's uncomfortable modern chairs under the cold fluorescent lights. Emma looked terrible, I noticed, with clinical detachment. Her skin, which had never fully recovered from losing access to my skincare products, was dull and marked with acne scars. She looked older than her years, worn down in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with the consequences of her choices. I'm sorry, she said, and for a moment I almost believed her. I'm sorry for everything, for taking your things, for making your life hard, for that day at grandmother's house. I was just so angry, and I didn't mean to... Didn't mean to what? I asked coldly. Didn't mean to push me? Didn't mean for me to fall down the stairs? Didn't mean to kill me? She blinked, confused. What are you talking about? I never pushed you down any stairs. Right, because in this timeline, she hadn't. I had prevented that confrontation by protecting my inheritance, but I remembered and that was enough. "Why are you here, Emma?" I asked, tired suddenly. "What do you really want?" Her mask slipped, just a little. I saw the calculation in her eyes, the predatory assessment. "I need money," she admitted. "Mom's sick, she needs treatments, and I can't afford it on my own." "I thought maybe you could help, for Mom's sake, if not for mine." I almost laughed. It was so predictable. Of course they needed money. Of course they expected me to provide it. And of course they had sent Emma to ask, knowing I might have residual soft feelings for my sister, if not for my mother. "No," I said simply. What do you mean no? She's your mother, Claire. She's dying." "Then she can use her own money. She can sell her house, cash in her retirement accounts, take out a loan. I don't care. But she's not getting a penny from me." "How can you be so heartless?" Emma's voice rose, drawing attention from the security guard at the desk. "After everything she did for you?" "She did nothing for me." I stood up, my own voice rising now. "Nothing. She favored you for my entire childhood, made me feel worthless, let you steal from me, sabotage me, hurt me, and never once stood up for me. Why would I give her anything?" "Because she's your mother." "No," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. "She's your mother. She made that choice a long time ago. Now you get to deal with the consequences." Emma's face crumpled, and for a second, I saw something that might have been genuine emotion. But then it hardened again, twisting into something ugly. "You're going to regret this," she hissed. "I'll make sure you regret this." "Are you threatening me?" I asked, pulling out my phone. "Because I have security cameras recording this entire conversation, and I have no problem getting a restraining order right now." She looked up at the cameras she hadn't noticed, her face paling. Without another word, she turned and fled. I stood there for a long moment, shaking with adrenaline and old fear. Then I went upstairs, triple-locked my door, and called my lawyer. The restraining order was filed the next day. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But I had underestimated Emma's desperation and overestimated her intelligence. 3 weeks later, I got a call from the police. Someone had attempted to break into my apartment while I was at work. The building's security had caught her on camera and detained her. It was Emma. When they searched her, they found lockpicks, a bottle of prescription pills that weren't prescribed to her, and a handwritten note detailing my daily schedule with alarming accuracy. The intent was clear. She had planned to break in and either rob me or hurt me or both. The police asked if I wanted to press charges. I thought about it for maybe half a second. Yes, I want to press every possible charge. Emma was arrested and charged with attempted burglary, possession of burglary tools, stalking, and violating a restraining order. The evidence was overwhelming. She took a plea deal, 2 years in prison, 3 years probation after. Mother called me screaming, crying, begging me to drop the charges. I hung up on her. Father sent an email suggesting I was overreacting. I blocked him. For the first time in either of my lives, I felt truly safe. The day Emma was sentenced, I went to grandmother's grave. I sat there for a long time, just thinking about everything that had happened, everything that had changed. "I did it," I told the headstone. "I protected myself. I protected your gift to me, and I made sure they can never hurt me again." The wind rustled through the leaves above me, and I chose to take it as approval. Now, 2 years after Emma's sentencing, I was 25. The trust was unlocked. The house and money were fully mine to access and use as I wished. And I had plans. Oh, did I have plans? I turned grandmother's house into a shelter for young women escaping abusive families. I named it after grandmother, and I poured my inheritance money into making it a beautiful, safe space where women like the old me could find refuge and support as they built new lives. I quit my job at the law firm and went to work for the shelter full-time, using my legal skills to help women escape abusive situations, to fight for their rights, to protect their assets from manipulative family members. It was the most fulfilling work I had ever done. Emma got out of prison and immediately violated her probation by trying to contact me. She went back in for another year. When she got out the second time, she seemed to finally understand that I was serious. She left me alone. Mother died of her illness, bitter and angry to the end. I didn't go to the funeral. Father sent me a notice about it, and I sent back a card that said simply, acknowledged. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Emma's life had fallen apart completely. She couldn't keep a job, couldn't maintain relationships, had burned every bridge and alienated everyone who might have helped her. Her skin, never having recovered from those early days of losing access to my products and never learning to take care of herself, was scarred and aged beyond her years. She looked, people said, like she had lived a hard life. She had. Just not as hard as the life she had tried to force on me. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if I should feel guilty. If I should feel bad about Emma's situation, about Mother's death, about the family torn apart. Then I remembered dying at the bottom of those stairs, Emma's face looking down at me without remorse. I remembered the years of abuse, of theft, of being made to feel worthless, and I felt nothing but satisfaction. I was 30 now, happily married to a kind man who loved me for myself and respected my boundaries. We had a good life together. The shelter was thriving, helping dozens of women every year. I had real friends, real family, the chosen kind, the kind that actually mattered. Sometimes I saw Emma around town. She always looked away when she saw me, hurrying past with hunched shoulders. I heard she was working at a department store makeup counter, ironic given her skin situation. I heard she was living in a tiny apartment with 3 roommates barely scraping by. I could have helped her, I supposed. I had more than enough money now. But why would I? She had never helped me. She had taken every opportunity to hurt me, to steal from me, to sabotage me. She had literally killed me in another life. No. Emma had made her choices. Now she could live with them. As for me, I had everything I wanted. Success, security, purpose, love. I had taken my unfair advantage, my knowledge of the future, and I had used it to build a life that no one could take from me. And my skin still looked amazing. I smiled as I locked up the shelter for the night, waving goodbye to the residents. Tomorrow, a new woman was arriving, another victim of family abuse, another person who needed help escaping a toxic situation. I would help her, just like I had helped myself. The cycle of abuse ended with me. I made sure of it. As I drove home, I passed a drugstore and saw a woman inside frantically reading the backs of skincare products. She looked desperate, confused, overwhelmed by the choices. For a moment, I saw Emma in her. Emma at 19, when her skin first started breaking out, when she first realized that stealing someone else's products wasn't the same as understanding skincare. But this woman wasn't Emma. This woman might actually be willing to learn, to do the work, to invest in herself properly. I almost stopped to help her. Almost. But I had my own family waiting at home, my own life to live. I had spent enough of my existence taking care of people who didn't appreciate it. Instead, I drove past and I didn't look back. That night, lying in bed next to my husband, I thought about the girl I had been in my first life. That desperate, eager to please, boundaryless girl who had given everything and gotten nothing in return. Who had died young and unmourned, pushed down the stairs by a sister who had never loved her. She was gone now. In her place was me, stronger, smarter, harder. Maybe not as soft or as forgiving, but definitely better protected. Was I happy? Yes. Was I at peace? Mostly. Did I ever regret the choices I made? The revenge I took? The family I cut away like a cancer? Not for a single second. My sister had used my skincare products, among many other things. After Rebirth, I stopped buying them. And when she broke out, when her life fell apart, when she lost everything she had taken from me, I watched and I smiled and I lived my best life. Because that was what I deserved. That was what I had always deserved. And finally, I had claimed it. The end? No, the beginning. My second life, my real life, was everything my first life should have been. And this time, no one, not Emma, not Mother, not anyone, would take it from me. I had learned my lesson. I had paid the price. And now I was reaping the rewards. Justice, in the end, tasted sweeter than any revenge. And my revenge had been very sweet indeed. As I drifted off to sleep, I touched my face, feeling the smooth, healthy skin that I had finally learned to protect and value. Not just my skin, but myself, my whole self, my boundaries, my rights, my life, mine, all mine. Finally, completely, irreversibly mine. And that was worth more than any expensive serum could ever be.